Hey guys, welcome back to GRAZYTV, and if you thought some of the other cases that we talked about in the Korean unsolved cases were crazy, well today I have another notch of creepy unsolved Korean cases. This case happened a while ago, happened 2 decades ago again, and I'm really hoping that by talking about it we could still one day solve this case even if it's been so long. Now, I felt very white and angelic today as we're talking about some creepy crime stories. My nails are white, ring. Do you guys see the color of this earring? It is so ethereal. It is so magical. It is like blue, red, white, green. And I found this cute top right here. Kind of looks corset-y, but yeah, it's super cute. I'm so excited to announce that we have a sponsor for today's video. You guys know sponsors help out channels so much to keep on going for these amazing crime stories. I want to introduce you guys to Function of Beauty. I cannot emphasize enough, what you put on your body is so important. Even your hair. Look at the shampoo and conditioners that I customize, and look at these beautiful colors. It looks so mermaidy. You guys see this? Function of Crazy Gray. Function of Beauty is so easy because you take a 2-minute quiz outlining your hair type, hair goals, and personalized preference. You could choose your own color, what color you want for your shampoo and conditioner, and even the fragrance. You guys know I have wavy hair, I have medium hair, and my scalp is normal, but I also have like super frizzy hair, especially if it's humid. Whenever I use drugstore ones or the ones that you get conventionally, I always have these like gunk left in my hair. If you like scratch your like scalp right after you washed it, it feels dirty still. That's all the silicone, that's all the residue from the shampoo. That is why it's so important to have high quality shampoo and conditioners for your hair. I promise you, you will see a world of a difference if you just use higher quality products. I also chose the hair serum because I need some serums after I've dried my hair or when my hair is wet. I've been testing Function of Beauty out for a couple days now, and my hair has changed so much. I literally just brushed my hair, put a little bit of heat just on the end, and look how smooth and beautiful my hair looks today. You guys know I would never recommend something that I do not believe in, so Function of Beauty, I am obsessed. Function of Beauty delivers right to your door so conveniently. If you guys use my link, you could get 20% off your first order, and I really highly recommend getting customized hair care for yourself. Thank you again, Function of Beauty, for sponsoring today's video. Alright you guys, so today's case is known to haunt South Korea for the longest time, and yes, it's been a while, but because this case is so unique, and the question is why? And this similar case has never happened in the history of Korea crime cases. So this case is about Miss Soyun, who was only 18 years old at the time. She was a high school student looking forward to graduate soon and become an adult. Her parents described her as a vibrant child, and she was just full of life. This all changed in 2001, March 8th. Soyun was discovered inside a building that was under construction. One of the construction workers who was working there found her when he went in for work. They saw something that was covered in newspapers, and he soon found out that it was a female that was dead. One of the interesting about this investigation was that Soyun was found with not a lot of traumas in her body. She didn't have that much bruises, no evidences of her fighting back the attacker. It's almost as she was just lying there, just like as if she was alive. Also, nothing was really stolen from her. There was still money that she had in her pockets and some of the belongings that belonged to her. So it's not like someone was trying to steal money from her. But the only thing that was missing was her hands. Disclaimer, this part might be a little bit triggering for some people, so you could exit out if you want to, but yes, her hands were missing. They found an axe near the construction site, which they believe was used to cut Soyun's hands because there was blood on it and it matched Soyun's DNA. The odd thing was that there was not a lot of blood at the construction site at all, which means that her heart had to be stopped before taking her hands, meaning she was dead by the time the suspect has done this. I don't know much about the science part of it, but apparently when one has passed away and your heart has stopped, that's when the blood doesn't come out as much, so there was not a lot of blood in the crime scene at all. This is very unique because who would take someone's hands after they passed away? I mean, is this a fetish for someone? Was this because someone had real hate towards Soyuni? I mean, she was only 18 years old. What kind of hate could she have? Now, let's go back to the night before Soyun disappeared. She went to school just like any ordinary day, and after school, she had to go to a part-time job where she worked at an accessory shop in Yeongdong area. The accessory shop she worked at was near the construction site, and it was was around 8:15 p.m. when a lady who worked at a nearby restaurant said she saw Soyun working. And unfortunately, this was one of the last times she was seen alive. It was around 8:35 p.m. when a phone call went to the accessory shop, but no one picked up. So between 8:15 to 8:35, only like 15-20 minutes, something had to have happened because she would have picked up the phone because she works there. Unfortunately, the place where Soyun lived and she worked at, there was no CCTV. Also, it was back in 2001. It was 20 years ago. It was only the next day after Soyun went missing, so March 9th, when a man went to the nearby river to get some water for his car. He said that he saw two white things floating, and soon he found that they were hands. He first thought it was mannequin hands because they were pure white. They were just pale white. When he called the police and the police came and investigated, it was indeed Soyun's missing hands. They even looked around the river to see if they could find any evidences of the suspect, and unfortunately there was no DNA or anything left behind. Now, this particular place was unique because the construction site, no one goes there, especially at night, unless you work there. So police began to question people who might have worked at the construction site and who knew the area very well. Now, the only evidence at first the police found was a pen. Yup, this was a unique pen that the police found, and the pen was a promotional pen for a particular car brand, and it was confirmed to be linked to one of the construction workers that worked there. And it belonged to Mr. Lee, who was the one that found Soyun. Police first thought that it was strange because no other workers found Soyun first because he was actually late to work that day, and Soyun was actually in a particular location of the construction site. So how did Mr. Lee know that she was there, and why did he discover her? So when police got suspicious of Mr. Lee, they wanted to see his hands, and indeed he had some cuts on his hands. Now, this cut was particular because it seemed like the cuts were from a nail mark, like someone was grabbing onto his hand. Mr. Lee also owned a pair of shoes that had similar squiggly line patterns that was found in Soyun's neck. So yes, someone actually had to have their shoes dug onto her neck because there was a mark. So Mr. Lee was never charged because there was not enough evidence, and after doing more investigation, they did find that the marks in his hands was actually taken 1 week after Soyun was discovered. So it's very crucial when the evidence photos were taken because 1 week later is too late. I mean, the marks could have been on his hand very recently or even later. After more investigation, the patterns on his shoe and on her neck was a little bit different. It wasn't actually exact matching, so Mr. Lee was cleared of any suspicion. Experts also say the way her hands were found on the river, it was kind of odd because someone would have tried to really hide it, not just throw it in the river. It's almost like someone threw it carelessly or very nervously, or like they just wasn't really thinking and they just wanted to get rid of the evidence and didn't care where it was. Another evidence was that Soyun's nails were cut very close to the skin. Now, her parents and a friend say Soyun always kept her nails really long. Now, this probably means that the killer tried to get rid of the evidence by cutting her nails, and maybe they weren't satisfied, so they had to take her hands because maybe she did try to fight back. You guys know that in a lot of the cases, under the victim's nails is where they could find the suspect's DNA when they try to fight back. So a lot of the times, cases can be solved by nails. So this suspect probably knew that this was one of the crucial evidences that he needed to get rid of. Looking at the hands, there was skin epidermis, which police was able to come to a conclusion that the suspect probably had the hands for 36 hours before actually disposing it. Can you imagine that? The suspect threw these evidences away 3 hours before it was discovered, and he kept the hands somewhere, probably in his house or in his car, I don't know, for 36 hours. That is, yeah. Police questioned 57 men on their list, but unfortunately everyone was crossed out and there was no suspect that was ever arrested. The parents, you could see they're crying. They're still traumatized this day, even if it's been decades. And how must it feel for the parents to not find the suspect and not to have justice after such gruesome thing has happened to your daughter? Now, it's been years and people forgot about this case. Even police who worked on it forgot about this case because there was just not enough evidence that came forward. And in 2014, December, 그것이 알고싶다, the famous documentary in Korean, filmed and aired the case about Soyun, and possible witness actually came forward. Now, could she have the key to a 20-year-old mystery? Could she even remember clearly something that has happened to her like 18 to 20 years ago? Now, the witness says that she was 10 years old at the time. She was living around the Yeongdong area, exactly where this has happened, and she says that there's this memory that is stuck to her till this day that she cannot get out. She said that every single day, just like usual, she was waiting for her mom inside their car. So when she was walking towards her car, there was a chubby man wearing light clothing, which it was very cold at that time, with a hiking backpack asking where the bathroom was. Number one, why would you ask a 10-year-old where the bathroom is? That is weird. Then he suddenly grabbed her, she screamed, a shop owner nearby came out to help her. She said that she ran inside the car and was waiting for her mother, playing some cell phone games, when she saw the same man go into a shop nearby, ask something to the female clerk. That's when that man and the female walked out together somewhere soon after she heard a scream. Moments later, she says that she saw the same man walk back, but this time he had a black plastic bag. She said that she thought that there was something mushy in there based on like how the plastic bag was. She was actually put into hypnosis to try to remember back her memories. You guys know that hypnosis has been proven to bring back memories of lost memories, of past life stories, anything you want to remember. Sometimes if you have like memory losses, you could actually remember them through hypnosis. I really want to personally try past life hypnosis. I'll film it if I ever do, but hypnosis is a really powerful tool that you could use in order to, I guess, positively, if you use it in a positive way, positively manipulate the brain to access a part where there's actually like everything that happened in your life. Surprisingly, there's almost like a USB center in your brain where it stores all the information and all the memories, but we personally just aren't able to access it 24/7. Anyway, she was put through hypnosis 8 hours, and unfortunately she was able to remember the scenario but not clearly the man's face. Now of course the documentary crew asked her why did she come forward after all this time, 18 years later. She said that when this happened, she was only 10 years old at the time, and she told a school teacher next day about it, but the teacher didn't seem to take it seriously, so she thought that it was nothing serious and she just kind of forgot about it, which totally makes sense. Do you remember when you were 10 years old? Can you even guess that this was a murderer? Can you guess that something bad has happened? No, you're 10 years old, you don't know much. Police still think that the suspect had to do with the construction site because at night the construction site was actually closed off and there was this one little section with like a door, flappy door they had. The documentary crew went into investigation and looking back 20 years ago, they found that list from the police where 57 men were investigated. Now they found that one of the men in that 57 list was not interviewed. They said that man who wasn't interviewed was Mr. Kim. He was part of the construction site team and he was specifically the carpenter for that building. Now police say he wasn't interviewed because apparently he had some kind of eye infection or eye surgery he needed to do, so he left to Busan conveniently during that time to get his eyes fixed. And that's one of the reasons why the police never interviewed him, which I don't know, like, if you had a suspect on the list, why can't they call the Busan police to work with you guys or track that person down when he comes back? It's like they never interviewed him because he just left the town or the city. So the funny thing is the documentary crew found Mr. Kim 18 years later. They surprised him where he was living. He was not informed before the documentary crew came to his house, so this reaction you see here is 100% real. The documentary crew asked him where he was and what he wore that day, and surprisingly, he said, I was a little bit bigger back then, about 90 kilograms, so I wore light clothes. And I always wore a hiking backpack. It definitely matched up to the witness statement. The documentary crew met up with him about total 3 times, and in one of the interview, they asked an interesting question where he said something a little bit odd. When they were talking about the case, Mr. Kim said, I cannot imagine someone trying to take a girl and rape her. The interviewer asked, how did you know the rape was the intention? Mr. Kim said, well, typically when females are taken like that, usually you think of rape. Is that the reason? Yes. The documentary crew said, she wasn't raped though. And he said, then I don't know. Did you do this to her? No. The documentary crew did show his face shaking when he was talking about that, about his mouth kind of trembling. Now, I don't know, maybe he was just nervous. Maybe he just thought like, oh, they think I'm the suspect, so I'm a little bit nervous. I don't know. Do you think this guy could have been the suspect of Soyun? The documentary crew also said while they were talking to Kim, it seemed like he didn't remember that specific day, but he was clear remembering the other days. But then think about it, like you're asking someone to remember something that has happened like literally 20 years ago. Like, do I or do you remember what happened 2001 March 8th? So I don't know, you know? But the documentary crew also said when he told Mr. Kim, unfortunately it's been so long, so they don't think they could find the suspect. Mr. Kim replied very strongly, no, of course not. You must find someone like him. He did a very bad thing and he must be punished. So in a way, the crew also did think that maybe he wasn't the suspect. Wouldn't he also agree and say, yeah, it's been too long, you can't find the suspect? Why would he strongly agree that the suspect must be punished? So after this episode, new evidence surfaced where they looked at the last people to see her, which were actually her friends she went to school with. It was revealed one of her friends, Hwang, who seemed to like Soyun, called her that day, and it was said he frequently kept asking her if she liked him, that he loved her, if she had another boyfriend, over 29 times. He was investigated in 2001, but after police were looking for more info, he left Yeongdong area. Then we have Kim, who was another guy friend. After this case, he stopped coming to school and even changed his ID number or canceled it, so there's actually no way to find Mr. Kim anymore. Then lastly, we have friend Park, who also never came to school the day Soyun was discovered by the police. He wrote on online community post sites about Soyun and her hands and some odd things on the website. He claims he doesn't really remember him posting this online since it's been so long and it doesn't have anything to do with him being the suspect. So do you think Soyun felt any pressure by these boys? Did they do anything to her? I mean, unfortunately, the police did not look farther into her friends, so we don't really know. All investigators always say 48 hours. The first 48 hours is one of the most crucial time. That's like the time frame you have in finding evidences or the suspect. After that, it gets harder and harder, and it's almost impossible to find after all this long. Now, at the end of the day, most questionable thing is, number one, she wasn't raped. Number two, it's not like someone stole money from her, but she was still killed and her hands were taken. What is the reason? It is really baffling because there was no need to do this to a young girl. Maybe it was the first time the suspect has ever done this and he was just so caught up at the moment. He just thought he just did not want to go to prison, so he just had to take any evidences that he wanted. So you guys, looking at all the evidences that we have, what do you think has happened, gone through the suspect's mind? What do you think has happened to Soyun at that moment? And do you even think the witness actually saw the suspect? Or maybe the witness didn't even see the suspect. Maybe she just saw a creepy guy and the suspect was just someone else. Also, remember you guys, if you want some beautiful hair and take care of your body, get customizable shampoo and hair. These are amazing, and click the link down below and it helps me out so much just by clicking the link. And remember you guys, have a magical day.